Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to Slinging the Pill, and this is Skylar. I just want to talk about one thing, and that's NBA free agency. And wow, I don't think we have ever seen an offseason even close to this in professional sports, let alone the NBA. It seriously feels like I'm playing in franchise mode of NBA 2K because it really feels like we're just in a fantasy world right now. I don't know what's going on. You have players winning championships, leaving that championship team. You have trades coming out of nowhere, and it is unbelievable. I'm excited. I'm excited for a season where there's finally going to be a handful of teams that can contend. There's finally parity in the NBA. But anyway, I'm excited. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Russell Westbrook. He formally requested a trade away from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Asked me if he was going to request for a trade just a week or so ago, and I would say, you're crazy, brother. I did not see that coming, and I definitely did not see the Paul George trade coming. When I saw the news that Kawhi Leonard was signing with the Clippers and Paul George was getting traded to the Clippers, I was scratching my head. I thought I was half asleep because I did not know what was going on. I didn't hear any headlines of friction between Paul George and Russell Westbrook or that anyone was unhappy. I really didn't see it coming, especially considering Paul George just re-signed last offseason. He could have signed in LA last offseason but decided not to, just to get traded to LA. And it really blew my mind that Russell Westbrook requested a trade because he's quote-unquote Mr. Loyal. Michael Jordan commended him for being loyal. He was the anti-Kevin Durant. And now that just washed away this offseason. But in reality, I can't blame him. He's seeing all of his colleagues jumping ships, switching teams. Like I said earlier, switching teams after winning a championship. So let's talk about the two realistic possibilities here. He's been linked to two teams so far. I guess I can't say the only two realistic possibilities because so much can happen very quickly. But the two teams that are linked to Russell Westbrook right now are the Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat. And ESPN just released a report that Russell Westbrook is interested in going to the Miami Heat. But first of all, let's just talk about the possibilities. I really like the idea of him going to the Rockets because we would potentially get to see Russell Westbrook and James Harden repairing. That would be super interesting because you know what? You always see the pictures that are like, what if? What if the Thunder would have kept Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook all on the same team? They would have won championship after championship, right? And I would have to disagree with that claim because had James Harden not gotten traded to the Houston Rockets, he would have never been the MVP player that he is now. He has like a 60% usage rate, and had he been on the same team as Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, that's not happening. So James Harden doesn't blossom into the same player that he is today had they not all been traded. So now that they're both established league MVPs, it'd be really interesting to see them repair, see if they can pull it off. I don't think it would work. I think both of them have too big of heads to play team basketball and let that blossom and develop. I mean, we saw what happened with Chris Paul. He claims he's not frustrated, but I think there's clear frustration coming from Chris Paul because he's used to being the floor general, but now he doesn't have that because James Harden has that 60% usage rate. So I think it'd be really interesting to see the two together. I think that would be the proof in the pudding if having all those guys together would really win championships. And I think it could be a potential boom or bust trade for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Honestly, no matter what they do at this point, I think they've won the offseason. That's another really interesting thing about this free agency is that, they almost always say that whoever gets the superstar wins the trade. But I think we're seeing with the Pelicans and we're seeing with the Thunder that if you're giving up a superstar, you can win the trade, especially now that the Toronto Raptors pulled off that trade and won the championship with Kawhi Leonard on the one-year rental. Teams are trying to pull the trigger because they want to try to win now. So I think they're becoming increasingly desperate. They're going to throw their entire future away to win in the next 2 years because we saw the Pelicans get 3 first-round picks, a couple swap picks. We saw the Thunder get 5 first-round picks. So I think at this point they can't do any wrong. But I think a deal with the Houston Rockets could be a boom or bust for them because they're in an interesting position. They have a whole future ahead of them with all these first-round picks, not to mention they just barely traded Jeremy Grant for another first-round pick. But they're in a very interesting position. They have a big future ahead of them, but they also can contend this year still. Not only on top of the picks, they also got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is a young up-and-coming piece, on top of Danilo Gallinari. So if they completed a trade with the Houston Rockets and pick up Chris Paul and Eric Gordon, they're a potential threat in the West on top of having a boatload of picks. So that could be very interesting. That it could also really hinder them because Chris Paul's on a huge contract. And like I said, they just picked up a potential star in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who also runs the point. So it could be boom or bust. It also might not make sense, but that would be a very exciting trade. But they also said that it's a long shot at this point in time. Let's go over to the more realistic option, which is the Miami Heat. Like I mentioned, Russell Westbrook said he has interest in playing there, which I really don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if you guys all remember, but they just barely traded for a guy named Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy Butler, man, his career has been a circus to say the least. He was on a Chicago Bulls team. He was a good young player. He got drafted late in the first round, and he was a surprise player. Played really well, but then they went into their little rebuild phase, so he wanted to leave, which that makes sense. He goes to the Timberwolves, who have some young pieces, can contend in a couple years, gets unhappy there, goes to a contending team, and after 1 year leaves and goes to the Miami Heat, who's another team that's no one really considers them in contention to win a finals anytime soon. So, yeah, no one knows what's going on with Jimmy Butler. He's a big personality. Russell Westbrook, also a big personality. So I just don't really see the two meshing very well. I mean, who knows? Maybe at this point, Russell Westbrook, he just wants to be happy, wants to be in a cool destination. He spent the last 11 years in Oklahoma City, so maybe he wants some excitement, he wants some nightlife, wants some cocaine and hookers. I don't know what's going on in his head, but I think that's really interesting. A weird pairing, but let's look up some potential deals that could send Russell Westbrook realistically to the Heat. We'll throw out the first potential deal here, and that's that the Heat receive Russell Westbrook and Andre Robertson, which, if anything, that's a win for the Heat to get Robertson. He's a good defensive player and could shoot the three. You never have too many of those on your team. And then on the other hand, the Thunder would receive Goran Dragic, a little bit older, but he's been a consistent player, can bring some leadership. Justice Winslow, Derrick Jones Jr., Dion Waiters, Duncan Robinson, and the Heat's 2022 second-round pick. Yeah, I think that would be a solid haul for the Thunder. Justice Winslow's still young, has a high ceiling. He's been solid for the Heat. Like I said, Goran Dragic, he's an older player, but he's been consistent, can bring some leadership. Derrick Jones Jr. can jump out of the gym. Dion Waiters, he didn't do so well in Oklahoma City, but he did play alongside Russell Westbrook. He has showed some flashes on the Heat, so that might be a good pickup for him. They have Duncan Robertson and then another pick, just piling up more and more picks, or potential trade bait. Who knows? So that's the first option. That could be nice for both sides. The second option is deal number 2. The Heat receive Russell Westbrook, and the Thunder receive Goran Dragic, Justice Winslow, Tyler Herro, and Duncan Robertson. So basically in this deal, the Heat don't get Andre Robertson, which I think would be an even bigger win for the Thunder, rather than getting a second-round pick and Dion Waiters. But they still get Dragic, Winslow, Tyler Herro, who knows how he's going to do. A lot of analysts are saying that might have been a stretch for the Heat to pick Tyler Herro that early. Duncan Robinson. I personally like that second deal better for the Thunder because they can keep Robertson, who has been a really nice piece for them over the years, and then the Heat get their superstar. So for the Thunder, I think that's a good deal. For the Heat, I like the first deal better because you get Robertson and Russell Westbrook. But to be completely honest with you, I don't like either of these trades for the Miami Heat because, like I said, I don't like the pairing of Jimmy Butler and Russell Westbrook at all. I think there'd be way too much going on. And, it always sounds nice to have multiple superstars on your team, but every time I think about having an overload of superstars on my team, this isn't an overload of superstars on a team, but it's 2 superstars with huge personalities. And every time I think about superstars with big personalities, I think of the 2004 Los Angeles Lakers, who had Karl Malone, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, and Gary Payton, and they lost in the finals to the Detroit Pistons. That is an older team, but sometimes people forget there's not enough balls to go around when you have these ball-centric superstars. So personally, I don't like it. Leave a comment on what you think about that. Would Jimmy Butler and Russell Westbrook, would they work together? Would they be able to put together a contending team in Miami? So let me know what you think on that. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe because a lot has happened this offseason, but I think there's a lot more that could happen. So stay tuned for more updates and more videos. Until then, peace.